Hello. In this topic, we are going to introduce while you're creating the web page, what kind of component already existing, or so we can able to manage it, able to control it, as well as get advanced to use it. I mean, in term the productivity, developing productivity aspect. So uh, we are going to tell you the tools, the Visual Studio, provide a creating ASP.NET web page. As we told about, there is a two different kind of separation. One's a client side and a server side, and then you have choose. Of course, web page you can purely create the HTML, as well as you can also create this dynamic page, creating with ASP.NET, similar things ASP.NET. Those are very regular. At the same, both are has a label, textbooks, button, checkbooks, and then other things has a very exactly same as HTML component, but it is also in C# there is also separate a little bit different approach applying this to different category. One is the HTML component we will be discussed later, another the web component. Uh, so what's the difference is while you trying to only designing the HTML static page, or less interact with server side of aspect, you need to go server side aspect. You are using some and in the page not too much, then you are going to HTML web page component. But other than you can use says server side web component. So before that, talking about those components, it's better to understand what's the life cycle, because usually you have to, at the first you need to initialize, then maybe you can finally you need to raise something if you do some kind of intervention or use some kind of resource. You have a chance to interpret while the life cycle of each independent step. So in the ASP.NET, between the you send it request and render the page, get the response. Actually, they separate this kind of 8 step. First one is a compile page. If already compiled, then you will be get from the cache. So it means the ASP.NET it's only compiled one times. So as I said, at the first, as well as the who running the first time, the page should be a little bit slower, because they encountered you have to wait the page compile it. After that, you needed to go into run it. So second step is set the request and response determined. So it is kind of you needed to going to start one of the request. Third is initialize page control. So it means something you needed to, or maybe a little bit constructive things, for example, theme, low things you need to initialize. Fourth step is those are controller been loaded, for example, and then you the post spec will be beginning to work. Fifth step is you need to validate, because the post spec is the post spec event is occurred. Then you need to go to step that you need to go some kind of control in terms of the data, whether you need to pass it or filter it, do kind of other things, or control it in the controller. Thick step is called control event handler. It is for requesting post back. Then 7 is save the view. So it means render control output page. Finally, then if something has you need to release, then you need to discard it. So it is a whole of the life cycle during the rendering the page or doing the request. There is one thing that you need to be aware that is a value state. So value state is not saving the server side. It is actually saving the page. So between the request and the response, they will be going to take on if all the time the state server in the page, if the pages something you needed to interact with while you interact response come to the server side, the state can be changed then save it, send back to browser. So it's kind of managing the state. Uh, just like that. Of course, we said there's a life cycle. In the page of life cycle, there is a many step. Each step has a kind of we give the name. For example, per init, parent, in this stage usually uh, first time I handle the page. So it's kind of only this is only used in the master page or theme. You need to initialize at that time you can able to use this page. Other than there is an init is each controller you can able to initialize. After done, all of the component being initialized, then you can able to uh, call it the init complete. It's not the you needed to call it. Actually, it is the sequence you needed to they needed to come to step. After that, per load. In the per load, you can able to this is happening in the control before the post back processing. So there should be this event useful when you needed to write code before the page initialize. Load is actually page is stable in this time, so it means it has been initialized and the state has been reconstructed. Code inside page loaded event typically check in post back. So set control properties so you can able to at that time you can need to use post back the event you can able to call it. Then control event ASP that now any event page it is control that caused by post back occurs. So it's example, for example, if you click to one button, so it's actually while you already the page already been loaded, then you can able to use it. And those things, then use it, then load completed, then you do something. Renders is final step before final change. If you do something in the before then show the page. So finally, and then save state complete. So it's something save state complete. After that, per render, you can still have save state complete. You can do it. Then finally is render. Those are all of the list of event you can use it all the time within the life cycle. Yes, finally is uploading as well. Yes, so we have a kind of control lifecycle events, init, load, render, upload. So it means you still have a many places you can interpret it. So you can give involved with some kind of control. It is a good chance to managing the whole process. Let's see the one of the creating the event handler. Let's escape the Visual Basic part. Because we just only focused on one language, C#. So what they're doing here is, for example, you already create one of the ASP page. Actually, there has a design, HTML design panel, as well as a source code panel. So at that, while you click the source code panel, there is you can, in the right side, in the top, you can able to select which event you are going to do some kind of coding. So for example, you can choose the page in it, then you can do some kind of work uh, uh, as you wish. Yes. And then of course, you also can, while in the design HTML designer panel, you can put this one of the component, you can drag and drop and put this in the component. Or you can directly dynamically control. It is we will be explained later on, but here's also a can able to directly double click, then you can able to put this proper some kind of initialization or part. You can do it in that way. As I said, there is a two kind of controller, one is HTML, one is a web server controller. The only difference is there's very obvious differences. All is the same as HTML component, and then HTML component, just like as we saw before in the HTML page, for example, but the hierarchy that we can show that, for example, say there's nothing special, for example, HTML image, HTML link, HTML table, HTML button, HTML text, HTML checkbox, reader button, then submit, reset. It's very common things with what we using while you doing the writing the pure HTML document. So it's no difference. Only difference is here's a one attribute being called run at. So as long as the attribute is run at in the server, it means the component becoming a server side, server component, not in the HTML component. This is only difference. So maybe you can think that only if it's very small difference, how, what's the advantage and disadvantage? Of course, there has an advantage, one that, of course, there is the common thing is that both are, you can use it in the designer panel, web designer panel too. You can drag and drop those component. Then after that, you can add it, run at in the server. Then it can become the server side component. So as I said, what is the difference is that the only the attribute, but while using the development stage, they have a significantly different. They will be use significant different approach. What's that? Because something you need to control a dynamic this web page. So maybe you can hide in some component. You can increase some best user experience, or performance perspective or security perspective. All the time you're trying to control the web page element, or some kind of maybe visibility or editability, something we still can control with the each step. For example, while you after that click, you cannot able to click again, as well as long as the response come out. So what is useful is you can avoid multiple response to the server. Then you can give a much more pressure to the server than it's affected the performance to the server. So while you are clicking, then as long as the response didn't come in, I can disable this button. Then while I get this response, then I can able to reset this button with enabled it. So it is kind of a practice that we can control with the web component practice. Then of course there's a more practical things very similar. They can drag and drop, then put it whatever you want to design or style. You can change it. What else? Then we also, another very important advantage that we can able to control in the those components, we can able to maintain or control in the programming code inside the code. For example, while you initialized, I can add some kind of dynamic button, or you can change it. For example, here's the button is disabled to true. It means the button will be disabled. Then, but the colors become back black. Then style, something you still can dynamically change. So it's another kind of attributes or characteristics in the doing web development in the Visual Studio with the C#. And then we talked about that. I mean, HTML a little bit different. As I said, there is a server side. Also, we are a component. There is architecture, hierarchy architecture, that we can say that it's starting from the implement from the web control, not HTML control. So it's two different kind of implementation. It's you can able to classify that it is a different category. You say that this is, for example, image, button, label, panel checkbox. Those are exactly same as HTML, but this is a different different interface. Yeah. Yes, then of course we can do it drag and drop. Then you can change to run it as a server to define the it's a web component, web server control component. We can type it this in the code, in the source code. You can type it some attribute. You can write it in the dynamic way in the code. You can add it and change it attribute as you wish. So in the web controller, there is a lot of attributed. Basically, there's a general attribute XSK, attribute, back color, border, width, styles, font, ID, tooltip. So it is all attributes are you can control during the during the runtime dynamically. So that's the reason it is different than static page. Yes. What else? Yeah, controlling auto postback. It's while you're talking about the just like the button, actually they has a clean button event, but it is also, as well as there's another event. For example, for the text box, there's a default event is a text change. So there has a default, each component has a default event, but usually auto postback is in the they can it is a default event for the button. Of course, there's a, each of the component sometimes, one component embedded another component, or maybe in the web page, in the web page, many web control there existed. So in order to if in order to easily find it, there is some kind of you know function they can able to find it used by either, for example, find the control, give the name, then they will be return back the component. Then you can able to keep going to control it or change it. Another example that, for example, this is a grid views, a little bit complex container. So in the grid view, it's not only the I mean, it's not the simple control. There is embedded table, there's embedded the row, there's embedded the column. So so each of them has an ID. So how you can find one of the cell is actually you can find it that using the find the control to designate this control, then you can able to control it in the future. So that's all of the content for this time.